welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 6-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, I have released multiple MLB packages over there on Patreon where you can get access to things like my starting pitcher data sheet, my hot hitter StatCast data sheet, my team hitting data sheet, my bullpen data, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. So go ahead and check that out, linked in the description. I think it's going to provide you with some value as to making better MLB DFS lineups day in and day out. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK DFS. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So we have a 6-gamer, a smaller slate, but we have to figure out our pitching. We have to figure out our bats as always. And as always, I like to go ahead and start my sheet by K rate to figure out the pitchers that we're going to want to play in our lineups. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the guy that tops the slate in K rate today is that in Ian Anderson, taking on these Miami Marlins. We're only dealing with a 26 innings pitched sample size, but the kids look really good so far. 31.5% K rate, 12.8 swinging strike rate, 59.3 ground ball, fly ball, hard hit rate. It looks really good across the board. A 26.1% K rate against righties, and then a 35.4% K rate against lefties. Very, very good. Literally, the only bad thing on the sheet is his walk rate against right-handed hitting, but we can live with that because overall his numbers have been real good. And when looking at the matchup today, he's taking on the Miami Marlins, which isn't exactly the most threatening lineup in the world. They've really been struggling as of late. And he comes in as a 184 favorite. So Ian Anderson, definitely a good option on the slate. He comes in at 8.8 on DraftKings. First guy to mention. Second on the list in K rate is that in Corbin Burns, taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Comes in with a 30.9% K rate, a 15.8 swinging strike rate. The ground ball is very good at 31.9. 34.9% K rate against righties, and then a 26.1% K rate against lefties. And the slugging and the hard contact and the Bubick gets worse against lefties, so we do prefer to target him against right-handed heavy lineups if at all possible, especially with that 34.9% K rate against righties. And when looking at the matchup today, the St. Louis Cardinals do have quite a few lefties in there, you know, with the switch hitters that they have in their lineup and then the lefties themselves. So while we do wish we could target him with a bunch of, or, you know, play him against the lineup with a bunch of righties, Vegas is liking him to win this game. He comes in as a 136 favorite. And the strikeout stuff's still there overall. I mean, second best on the slate in K rate. That's going to, you know, make you have some interest in him on a slate that's not the largest. So, and then not to mention the 15.8 swinging strike rate is very impressive. I mean, swinging strike rate is, you know, a great way to factor in stuff because, you know, these hitters are swinging and missing. I mean, kind of explains itself, but that's always very helpful for when picking a pitcher and picking a pitcher that can get you some strikeouts on today's slate. So, Corbin Burns, next option. The next guy is arguably the best option on the slate, even though he's third on the slate in K rate. Walker Buehler taking on these Oakland Athletics. Comes in with a 28.5% K rate, 11.7 swinging strike rate. The ground ball, the fly ball is very good. The walk rate is very, very good. Best on the slate. 28.2% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 5.2 walk rate once again. So he has the strikeout stuff. He doesn't really walk anyone against lefties. He's very good as well. 28.8% K rate against lefties. So just solid across the board. And he gets to take on an Oakland A's team who, you know, has been very good on the season, but they do have their fair share of strikeouts, and he is a 215 favorite today. So Walker Buehler, definitely, you know, a top option on the slate. It's a question of if you want to pay that $10K price tag when you can go down to a Corbin Burns or an Ian Anderson, maybe that we discussed so far type of deal. They're a little cheaper. But Buehler, definitely top option on the slate as far as elite name value and good stuff. Next is Lynn, taking on the Houston Astros, who don't strike out a ton. Give you guys a little sneak peek at my team hitting data sheet that I offer there on Patreon. You know, when we highlight the Astros, they have a 19.9% K rate, which you can see is in the green, meaning, you know, they just don't strike out. And against right-handed pitching, specifically, since they're taking on Lynn today, they only have a 20.5% K rate. So they just don't strike out a ton. And then when you're looking at the Athletics, which is the team that we just covered, I just want to throw them in there real quick because they're right there and mentioned to you guys. I talked about Buehler, and the Athletics do strike out at a 24% clip, yellow. So they're middle of the league as far as strikeout rate, and then its right-handed hitting is 23.5. So I just want to point out, the statistics back it up. I had said the Athletics do have some strikeouts in there, and they definitely do. So not to get off topic, but just want to throw that in there. And then Lance Lynn, overall, 26% K rate. Against righties, he has a 31.1% K rate, and then against lefties, it drops down to a 20.7. So Lance Lynn is a guy we really, really want to target against right-handed heavy lineups. That's where he excels. And when looking at the Houston Astros lineup that they're expected to roll out today, they do have quite a few righties. They only have 3 lefties in there. So that's pretty solid overall for the matchup in Lynn splits. The only thing that stinks is that they really just do not strike out. As I had mentioned on my sheet, they just don't strike out. So, yeah, there's some positive to the matchup as far as they're being right-handed hitters, but then you also have to factor in the opposing team's strikeout rate, and it's not the greatest. So at 9.3K, I'm not sure if we want to go there. We can go to Ian Anderson at 8.8 or a Corbin Burns at 8.4. But it's a small slate. He's definitely viable. Have to mention him. And then when we're starting to break down some cheaper pitching as far as guys that we can get some bang for a buck or on the cheap end. It's not like the slate's really loaded with options. And to be honest with you, they're all kind of bundled up. You got Alex Cobb at 6'9", Martine Perez at 6'7", Michael Fulmer at 6'5", Chris Bubick at 6'6". They're all right there. Mike Fiers at 6'8". So when you're factoring all this stuff in, I don't really know if it's going to be too easy to pick a guy on the cheap end. But I will say that Kim at 7.8K taking on these Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers are second to worst in the league in K rate. So he's the first guy I'm going to talk about strictly because of matchup. He comes in with a 15.8% K rate, a 7.6 swinging strike rate, and then once again, my team hitting data sheet. I'll just go ahead and sort this by worst strikeout in the league to prove to you guys, that the Brewers and the Tigers right here, these are the 2 teams that I've loved targeting all year. The Brewers and the Tigers strike out a ton. So, as far as our other pitching options, I'm going to go ahead and mention the guys in the best matchup. So you have Kim right here against the Brewers. He does have a 15.8% K rate, not really good. Against lefties, it's an 11.3, and against against righties, it's 11.3, and against lefties, it's 33.3. So he really excels against left-handed hitting, and that doesn't really fare too well for him against, Yeah, well, I guess, there's still only one lefty in this lineup. So I was about to say it doesn't really fare well for him, but the strikeout rate's still very high in this lineup. So 11% K rate against righties, not good, but the lineup itself is a good matchup. So he's going to get a boost. That's what I'm trying to say here. And then the other guy that's going to get a boost is Chris Bubick taking on the Detroit Tigers. He's 6.6K. And once again, himself, he doesn't have the most impressive numbers. 22.2% K rate. That's higher than Kim's, though. A 23.4% K rate against righties, and then a 16% K rate against lefties. So he actually does strike out right-handed hitting more than he does lefties, which is great for him in this matchup because the Tigers are going to roll out all righties. So I do think that he's the pay-down option because of the matchup. The strikeouts are there, and he's the guy I would promote on the cheap end. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down the bats that we like today. Enough talking about the pitching. And as always, I'd like to go ahead and sort my sheet by skill, interactive, ERA, SIERA. It's a great way of determining how good a pitcher's been so far in their career and how good they're expected to be in the future. And when looking at the worst guy on the slate in SIERA, we have Martine Perez taking on these Baltimore Orioles. Not good numbers across the board. The K rate's very bad. The swinging strike rate's very bad. The ERA is bad. The SIERA's bad. Ground ball, fly ball is decent, but when we're looking at slugging against righties, he gives up a 479 slugging, and then against lefties, he gives up a 357, and his numbers are much, much better. So it's really the righties that get him. And when looking at the Baltimore Orioles lineup, there's definitely some righties that we can target. Hanser Alberto, Austin Hayes, Ryan Mountcastle, Renato Nunez, Pedro Severino, Vallica, And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, my main targets would definitely be the middle of the order in Mountcastle, Nunez, Severino. Those would be my 3 favorite options. And definitely could have some interest in the Baltimore Orioles bats today, the right-handed bats. Second worst on the list is Kim, who we had already discussed, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. He does really great at bat in the Sierra category. However, when you're looking at his ground ball, fly ball, hard hit rate, and all that stuff, he doesn't really have any areas that we want to target. So I'm going to go ahead and put a disclaimer on him as far as, I probably wouldn't target him today. Mike Fiers, next guy on the list, taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. A very, very good lineup. Really bad on the K rate, really bad on the swing strike rate. Against righties, he gives up a 4.55 slugging. And then against lefties, he gives up a 4.06 slugging. So really not good at anything outside of the walk rate. But he really does give up most of his hard contact to right-handed hitting. However, it's bad against both sides. And when we're dealing with a slate this small, and we have a talented lineup such as the Dodgers and a lackluster talent and a guy like Mike Fiers, we can definitely go ahead and stack this team up and feel pretty good about it. So I don't need to tell you the first 5 are all elite bats. Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger. And then you have the bottom of the lineup and Will Smith, Chris Taylor, Jock Peterson, and A.J. Pollock. So I do think that every single one of these guys is a viable option. Not to be giving you broad analysis, but I just think it's true. If I'm picking my favorites, they're going to be the guys with price tags attached to their name because they grade out as the best plays because of their statistics and their power. I mean, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Max Muncy, and Cody Bellinger would probably be my favorites. I like Will Smith a lot at the catcher position. Jock Peterson's always a great option if he cracks a line. He's got a ton of power and he's cheap at 3.3K. And yeah, I mean, that's my overall breakdown of that lineup. Next on the list is Alex Cobb taking on these Boston Red Sox. So we're going to want to target some Red Sox bats today. K rate's bad, swinging strike rate's bad. The ground ball and the fly ball is respectable, but when you're looking at his numbers against right-handed hitting, he's a 537 slugging, which is very, very bad. And then his lefties, it's a 465. So yeah, just not good across the board really, especially against righties. And the Red Sox definitely have some guys we could have interest in today. Alex Verdugo, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, Christian Vasquez. I mean, the top 5 would be my main priority, but then you can definitely throw in some salary relief guys at the bottom in JBJ, Bobby Dalbec, Melko Chavis, and Christian Arroyo. Favorite options would be, that 2, 3, 4 range. Definitely they're the premier bats, and Devers, Bogaerts, JD Martinez. The price tags are attached to them, but then Alex Verdugo at the top of the order. Don't forget about him. But overall, just a really good spot. And then I'm not really too scared of the Baltimore bullpen either. So, like the Boston Red Sox today. We had mentioned playing Chris Bubick against these Detroit Tigers. When looking at his numbers, he struggled more against lefties. And while his numbers against righties aren't impressive, he has struggled more against lefties. But the Tigers only have a 4.27 implied run total, and I'm not really too excited to target them as a stack today. So we're going to kind of skip over them. Michael Fulmer taking on the Kansas City Royals. Really bad across the board, really, except for the fly ball rate. But other than that, he really doesn't have much going on for him. He gives up a 473 slugging against right-handed hitting. He has a 39.7% hard hit rate, a 358 woba, not good. And then against lefties, it's a 458, still not good across the board. So I think these Royals are a really, really good stack on this slate. They have a 5.23 implied run total. And we get to target them right when they're getting healthy because they just got Jorge Soler back, a guy with a ton of power. They got Whit Merrifield, Adalberto Mondesi, who's been turning it up recently. His price tag's starting to reflect it now. We were able to play him really, really cheap there for a little bit. And now Adalberto Mondesi's not so cheap. So, able to play him cheap for a long time. Now we have to pay the price tag, but I think he's well worth it. He's got the power, the speed. And then you could throw in Maikel Franco, Hunter Dozier to round out your stacks. And I'm feeling real good about this Royals stack today. Like them. And then this is when we start to get into kind of the good pitching tier. So I'm going to start looking at splits and seeing if there's anything that we can target. And really, when you're looking across the board against right-handed hitting, not seeing much that I like. And then against lefties, that's when things get a little bit interesting because we do have 2 pitchers here Well, three really. So we'll break down each one of them. Christian Javier, Pablo Lopez. So first, Javier, you can see his splits. He does struggle more against left-handed hitting. So we're going to want to target the lefties on this Texas team. And when looking at the lefties, I mean, Joey Gallo is definitely our top option, guy with a ton of power. He's been really struggling this year, but he has the power. We have Leotis Taveras at the top of the order. Willie Calhoun has a ton of power. Rougned Odor has a ton of power. Derek Dietrich has a ton of power. So those are the guys I'd want to target. Taveras, Calhoun, Joey Gallo, Rougned Odor, and Derek Dietrich. That's what I'm putting in my lineup, so I'm stacking up the Texas Rangers. Next, Pablo Lopez taking on the Atlanta Braves. Pretty good across the board, very good against right-handed hitting, but when you go to lefties, that's when the 456 slugging occurs. So, once again, left-handed hitting, which obviously makes us have interest in Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman's the very first guy that I would say go ahead and target. Definitely like Freddie Freeman today. Ozzie Albies, Nick Markakis. Those are the guys. The right-handed hitting you can definitely throw in there to complete your stack, but we do prefer lefties in a great way against Lopez, so I want to, point that out. And then the very last guy on the list is Corbin Burns. He's a guy that I had discussed playing as a pitcher, but then you look at his splits against left-handed hitting, and you can definitely target some lefties in this lineup today. Colton Wong, Tommy Edman, Matt Carpenter, Brad Miller, Dexter Fowler, and Dylan Carlson at the bottom of the order. Both have a decent amount of pop, and both are very cheap. So you can get them on the cheap end today. So go ahead and stack up those Cardinals if you're wishing to, the lefties. And that's pretty much my overall breakdown of today's slate. It's a short one. It's a smaller slate, so we're going to want to target, the very specific spots that I went over. Try to throw in a blend and mix up your lineups, be contrarian. And with that being said, I can give you guys an overall breakdown of what I went over today. So Ian Anderson at 8.8K, definitely a pitching option to have interest in today. I do like the Braves lefty bats. The Baltimore Orioles, you can definitely have interest in the right-handed hitting that excels against lefties because Martine Perez has not been good against right-handed hitting. So you got Hanser Alberto, Austin Hayes, Ryan Mountcastle, Renato Nunez, Pedro Severino, Velica. I'd really target that 1 through 6 range. The Red Sox, I have a ton of interest in taking on Alex Cobb. He's batting against both sides of the plate, so we just want to play the premier bats if possible, and then we can throw in the salary relief guys, Alex Verdugo, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez. Like that stack. Christian Vasquez at catcher I like. And then you could throw in JBJ, Bobby Dalbec, Michael Chavis, and Christian Arroyo at the bottom of the order for salary relief. Lance Lynn's a viable pitching option. I like the lefties for Texas, so Leotis Taveras, Willie Calhoun, Joey Gallo, Rougned Odor, and Derek Dietrich. Like those guys today. The Detroit Tigers, you can go ahead and throw in some righties that excel against lefties if you'd like against Bubick, but I'm not really looking to go there all too much. I do like the Royals, however. Taking on Michael Fulmer, he's really bad against both sides of the plate, so target the guys with talent and power. Whit Merrifield, Mondesi, Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler, Maikel Franco, Hunter Dozier. Like those guys. Corbin Burns, definitely a viable pitching option today. I like Kim as a pitching option too because of the Milwaukee Brewers K upside. And then the Cardinals, you do have to target their left-handed hitting. So Colton Wong, Matt Carpenter, Brad Miller, Dexter Fowler, and Dylan Carlson. And lastly, the Dodgers, a team you always have to have interest in. And when you're looking at Mike Fiers compared to the rest of the slate, he is a mediocre pitching option. So guys with talent, guys at the top of the order, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager. Justin Turner is a guy I do prefer to target mostly against lefties, so I might keep him off my stacks. But yeah, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, Will Smith, like them all. And then the bottom order does provide value. If we get Jock Peterson at that lineup at 3.3K, I'm going to like him a lot as a salary relief option. So that is pretty much it. I have to give you guys my home run call of the day before I let you go. And when giving you my home run call of the day, I always like to go back, give you my reasoning, look at the splits, look at why we're targeting these guys. And when you look at Mr. Alex Cobb splits today, One, he's really bad against righties, a 537 slugging. One, he's really bad against lefties, a 465 slugging. So, but specifically, really bad against right-handed hitting is a 537 slugging. So with that being said, when I'm looking at this Boston Red Sox lineup today, my home run call of the day is going to be that in Mr. Xander Bogaerts at 5.3K on DraftKings at the shortstop position. I think Xander's going deep today. He's my home run call of the day. Go ahead and get him in your lineups. He's going to fill that shortstop position for you, and he's going deep. So, like Xander Bogaerts today, go ahead and get him in your lineups. If you're enjoying the content, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future content that I release. I appreciate you guys tuning in today, and I wish you all the best of luck tonight. Have a good one.